Welcome to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast, where we explore the fundamental abilities and insights that make us better humans. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hi, everyone. Christina Eanes here. Excited for this episode of Essential Skills for Humaning, where we're talking to Andy Crocker. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, before we dive into the Unconditionals, can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners?
I'd be happy to. I am an aerospace engineer, or some people like to say rocket scientist. And it's actually true in my case. So I have worked on rockets, designed rockets. I've got 30 years in aerospace. So right out of college, that was my major, and went into it and have worked all kinds of different cool projects, but always in space. So, aerospace engineers can go into aircraft, commercial aircraft. You can do a lot of different things, but I've always been in the space side, and I've loved it. And worked defense some, but mostly in civil, which is NASA, and commercial space. So a lot of different cool projects. My most recent and probably definitely the biggest project in terms of publicity and just honestly enjoyment and having the most impact on my career and other things is working on the human landing system. So just in the last few years, I led a team to design the next lunar lander that would carry humans back to the moon. And that was, as you can imagine, for an aerospace engineer, kind of a holy grail type project, one that you think about, hope to be able to do something like that in your career. And it happened to come around, and we were fortunate enough to participate. So that was a big opportunity that was great, but also led to some disappointment. And then coming out of that, I decided to write this book, and wrote the book, and that just came out in May. So I've just been talking about it since then.
Nice. So can you share maybe a little bit in depth about what led to writing the book?
I had thought for many years about trying to write things down that I think are important for my kids to know.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're raising kids, you're busy. You never really have an opportunity to stop and think, okay, am I doing the right things? Am I sharing the right information? But I'd always thought about literally writing it down. Those thoughts first came to my mind when our first kid was born, and I did write things down for about 6 months, and then it stopped. And occasionally I would get an inspiration and kind of throw things into the bucket of things I want to go back and look at some point. But I finally got to that point for two reasons. One is I was working on the human landing system, and it was an amazing project for many reasons, but one was that we were really competing against some big name companies, Blue Origin, which is led by Jeff Bezos, and SpaceX, which is led by Elon Musk, and our company. The three companies were the ones competing, and so it was a well-known project. We got a lot of opportunities to talk to people about it. We had astronauts come and try out our spacecraft and design and other things. So just a lot of great things came out of it. Probably the best was just working with a fantastic team, and the people that we brought in and got to work on it were just fantastic. But ultimately, we had two opportunities to get selected, and we lost both times. And that was a big blow for us, as we really thought this would be, this career changing. It was career changing, but not in the ways that we hoped. And so for me, I kind of stepped back and said, okay, what's next? What am I going to do next? And right about the same time, just a few months later, my son came home from school, high school, and said, I'm a senior. And, I knew it, but it just hit me that night. Wow, my kids are all grown up. So those things kind of combined to spur me to really write things down. And as I got into it, I realized that it was going to turn into a book rather than just sort of a notebook that I handed to the kids. And it turned into the Unconditionals, which is really about 5 values that I think are critical for anybody, not just my kids, but anybody, in as parents, as people in general, and as leaders as well.
Yeah. Well, I love it, and I love your explanation in the book on why you chose the word unconditional. So could you please share that with our listeners?
That was an interesting one for me, and really kind of an aha moment for me. Honestly, it was I had written most of the book and had zeroed in on the 5 values that I thought were the right ones, and had a lot of the material that I wanted, but I just felt unsettled, like it wasn't the right message. And I can't remember what sparked it, but I remember realizing that unconditional love is something that we all have used that phrase. It's a phrase that we're familiar with, so it doesn't surprise people. But that unconditional word and unconditionality in general really should apply to all of these values. And so unconditional means that we live these values no matter what situation we're in, no matter who we come in contact with, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what we're going to get out of a situation, we live these values as they are, and they really form who we are. And that's the important thing is, our core values really should be who we are, and those shouldn't change based on circumstance. And so that's really what I realized, and what made me finally feel like I had a book that I was willing to put out there, is that it's not a new idea, but the idea is that it really should be kind of an operating system for us. We should
Yeah.
we should each have as our value, whatever the values are, whether they're the 5 that I talk about in this book, or whatever your core values are. That should be your operating system, and it should be who you are, no matter what's going on.
Yeah. Which I like that you had said conditionality is easier and part of our natural instincts.
Right.
So that, yeah, this is something that we need to focus on. And like you said, unconditional love, even that person who's being perhaps really mean to you in the moment.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
looking at them a little differently.
Exactly. And that one is, I really think, for many reasons, that one's the hardest. And
Yeah.
that's really why I think that unconditional love is the fundamental kind of foundational value, because I think if we can get that, not that we'll ever be perfect at it, but if we can get it and really try to look at people equally, no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, where they're from, what they believe, then it allows us, it frees us up to then be able to have gratitude and integrity and the other things that I talk about in the book. So, yeah, unconditional love is definitely difficult, but it's one of those that I really think could make such a huge difference to us and to the world.
Yeah. Well, and like, we can just dive into that first one then, unconditional love, and then we can maybe do a little highlight of the other ones. But I love how you mentioned in unconditional love, because a lot of people, when they think unconditional love, myself previously included, it means that we have to like put up with bad behavior, or
Right,
we
right.
have to still be with that person if it's a family or romantic relationship, or we have to forgive them for, I don't know, maybe not forgive, but so can you share a little bit more about that?
I think the things you said are absolutely true, but I think the key point is that it applies to everybody. And I think
Hmm.
what I think will help people really understand what unconditional love means is by thinking about everybody else, everybody on the planet, as human.
Yeah.
We're all humans. We all were born the same way. Essentially, we all um, have the same basic set of genes and basic operating systems, and therefore there's no reason for us to look at anyone else different than we are. And
Hmm.
so, just as we want to be respected and have kindness extended to us and compassion, respect, kindness, and compassion are the 3 elements that I think are critical to it. We should offer those 3 things to everyone just because they're alive. And that, to me, opens up so much more opportunity for collaboration, communication, and just getting along with people.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you maybe give an overview of what the other ones are, and then we can dive deep in whichever one you prefer?
Okay. So, yeah, the four, beginning with love, it's really foundational. And then gratitude is the second one, unconditional gratitude, unconditional integrity, unconditional accountability, and unconditional endeavor. Um, and I think the first four, I mean, unconditional love, as I said, everybody has kind of heard that and has a thought about what it means, but maybe needs to think about it a little bit more. And gratitude, integrity, accountability, those are words that I really think we all should think about and really understand what they mean for us, because I think if we do practice those unconditionally, it's a game changer. It really allows us so many more opportunities to be fulfilled as people and to have a major impact on the people around us.
Yeah.
Unconditional endeavor, I'll talk about it a little bit more because it's a little different than the others. First of all, the first four are kind of, I think, required no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. But if you're like a monk or an ascetic and you're focused on, just being present and that's all you're going to do, I think those first four still are critical, but you may not require endeavor. But
Mm-hmm.
for most of us, the vast majority of all of us, we operate in the world, we act, we are in the world doing things. And that's what endeavor really is doing. And unconditional endeavor contains those things that really are about doing the right way, from purpose, which is the first piece of unconditional endeavor. What is your purpose? What are you really doing this for? All the way through perseverance, overcoming obstacles, and then growth, which should be the outcome of any endeavor, is whether you fail or succeed, you should grow. And that really is the result, we hope, of any endeavor, is that we are going to grow in a positive way personally.
Yeah. I love it. Having a growth mindset.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about maybe what each of these looks like?
Right. Gratitude is so unconditional, I should say. Unconditional gratitude is being content and appreciating what you have,
Yeah.
whatever it is. We all want more, and that's really what makes it difficult, is we want more than we have. And all of us, in some form or fashion, even those who are unfortunate, do have things to be grateful for. And I've
Mm-hmm.
got some stories in the book about people who, anyone else would look at them and say they really have it hard. They've got a tough life, but they're grateful, and that allows them to live fulfilled and happy, and have a hugely positive impact on other people. So gratitude is a very important unconditional value. Integrity is one that I think we all think about, but the thing that's so important about integrity, unconditional integrity, is that's what allows us to be whole as a
Mm.
person. It allows us to, for all of the things that we do and think and say, those things are consistent. It's being honest, being authentic, being fair and loyal. All of that is wrapped up into a consistent person and allows us to be whole as a person no matter what's going on around us. So integrity is being whole. Accountability is all about owning it. Whatever your job, your duty, your commitment is, you own it and you live with the outcome, whether it's positive or negative for you. You accept that and you grow from it. And so it ties really closely with integrity, but also with endeavor. But it's really about owning it and taking the responsibility and being, someone that people can count on. And then endeavor, I talked about a little bit already.
Yeah. Could you maybe share just a couple of strategies that people can do to build? I know that they want to read the book, right, and grow so much more in each of these areas, but maybe just a couple of takeaways today from each of these on maybe a daily practice that they can engage in,
Sure.
or some other way to develop it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of great books on how to grow good habits and how to, change our lives. And so I didn't in the book really try to write a new, better book for that, because I think there's some great ones out there, and I mentioned some of them in the book. But I think the fundamental piece, and then I'll get into some specifics. The fundamental piece about the unconditionals is that they're non-negotiable. They're things that really should be, as I said, who we are. So
Yeah.
they're our operating system or our mindset, and we should define ourselves as people who are unconditional about our values. So we establish what those values are, and then we say, I am a person who lives with unconditional love or with unconditional gratitude. And if you do that, and then you enter whatever situation with that mindset, it really helps, especially if you practice it. And that's really, as you get into specifics, you think about, okay, how can I grow into this? Well, you do it in those easy situations, right? So you get into a
Yeah.
situation, you come in contact with someone who, yeah, they might rub you the wrong way, but you want to be a person who has unconditional love, so you practice that. And then as you do that more and more, when you get to a situation where it is really tough, you've demonstrated to yourself that, hey, I'm a person who has love unconditionally for others. I live with unconditional love. So even in this tough situation, that's who I am, and that's what I'm going to do. And I think that's really the big picture approach for all of these. We want to start not trying to do that with every one of these, because they're hard. I mean, as
Yeah.
you said at the beginning, conditionality is kind of part of who we are. It's just our natural way of being. It's easy for us. It's a cop out, and we all just naturally do that. So you kind of start with, daily practices like growing a habit. You can do for gratitude a gratitude journal, for example. Having an accountability partner is a great one where, hey, I'm really going to try to own whatever my situation is, but you've got somebody who you can talk to who's trying to do the same thing. So those step-by-step practices to try to move yourself toward becoming a person who is unconditional about your values.
Yeah, I like that. And individuals can look and see at which area they need to work on most and then do a deeper dive into it and then figure out maybe one thing that they can do each day to step a little closer to that goal.
Yeah, yeah. There's some good stories in the book, and again, lots of great books out there about folks who've tackled gratitude. Folks who've
Hmm.
said, "Hey, I realized gratitude was something that was missing," and they did step by step. And so, really think about that one, whether it's something that you really want to be a part of your character, or you just know you're lacking, and then find something within that you can really work on just on a day by day basis. Eventually you'll find that is part of who you are, and you can show up in any situation and think, hey, this is who I am. It doesn't matter what's going on. I'm gonna be that person.
Yeah, I love it. Well, what else do you want listeners to know about the unconditionals?
Well, I try to say this throughout the book, and I can say it very honestly for myself. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It is something that I think it's a worthwhile goal. It's an ideal that I really believe we all should try for all the time. But it's not easy, and especially as parents, as leaders, when we're in a situation where we're not going to get a a benefit out of something, or we may have to act in a way that's going to bring back negative consequences. That's really tough. And so I definitely want listeners to know that I get, and I think we all get, that being human is hard. And humaning your
Yep.
podcast is very, very appropriate, because it's difficult. But I think thinking about what our values are and really knowing what they are for each person, and then deciding, this is who I'm going to be, and I'm going to work at making the decisions that demonstrate that's who I am, is a worthwhile goal, and something that is worth making mistakes about, and then overcoming those mistakes, and then moving towards growing into that person.
Yeah, I love how they're all interrelated. Like that would be endeavor, right? Helping us grow.
Right.
And I also love how you mentioned it essentially is a journey, right? It's not like we finally reached this destination while I am 100% accountable in 100% of the time,
Right.
right? It's constant growth.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And we all go in, we wake up every day knowing we're not going to get it perfect. But I think all of us also want to do our best. And I know the people who listen to your podcast listen to it because they want to improve as
Yeah.
people, as coworkers, as leaders, as parents, whatever it is. And so the unconditionals really is a direction. It's not a destination, as you said, and it's about trying to move towards becoming, the best person that we think we can be.
Yeah. Which is why I also love that you have essentially a compass on the cover.
Right. Yeah. That one was, really thought a long time about what to put on there. And so, interestingly, the compass shows points instead of 4 cardinal directions, it has 5, one for each of the of the unconditionals. So hopefully it makes people stop and think, now, what is that about? But again, I think it's important for people to realize that, these 5 values that I have in the unconditionals are really important, and I think they're important for all of us to think about. But they may not be everybody's core 5 or 2 or 4, whatever it is. And so, whatever your core 5 are or 2, focus on those. So your compass may have 2 points or 10, but I think deciding what those are for you is super important, and then really working towards, hey, I'm going to live these. Whatever your values are, they have to be things that you want to be able to do no matter what. And if you can do them no matter what, then you will accomplish more, be a more fulfilled person, and have a positive influence on the people around you. And that's what makes them the right kinds of values.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so people are going to have to get the books. Where can you share a little bit about where they can get it, or learn more about you, products, services, etc.?
Absolutely. 2 quick things. Easiest one is andycrockerbooks.com. Just like it sounds, andycrockerbooks.com. You can find out more about me. You can link to places to buy the book. You can get in contact with me and even sign up for a newsletter. Or you can go to pretty much any outlet, from Amazon to Barnes & Noble to whatever. All formats are out there. So physical copies, ebooks, and audiobooks are available. So hopefully people will check out the format of their choice and get something out of it.
Awesome. Okay, what is your final piece of advice for our listeners?
I think that we all should remember that life is an iterative process. It's one where we are always moving forward and stepping back, but hopefully our intent is to move forward and to improve for ourselves and for others. And the unconditionals was my attempt at trying to help others come up with a way to do that. But whatever we do, I think we should know that we should give ourselves grace. We're not always going to be perfect, but if we're intentional about moving in the right direction, good things are going to happen.
Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Andy.
Chris, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Loved your podcast, and thanks for having me on.
Transform your organization with Eanes Training. Our premier interpersonal skills training programs are tailored to enhance your organization's employees in communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, and more. We have a catalog of expert-led courses designed to meet the dynamic needs of today's workforce. With highly engaging in-person, hybrid, and remote sessions, we can help elevate your organization's performance and success. Learn more at eanestraining.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights to enhance your journey as a human being. Remember, practice makes progress. Keep honing those essential skills, and until next time, keep being the best version of yourself. For more resources, visit eanestraining.com.